Hello, hello. Okay, guys, we have a new setup this month, this week, so please forgive me if I'm looking down or I'm just getting used to this whole new vibe I've got going on in my office. But thank you so much for joining me. Today's episode is Build Authority Without Getting Burned. We're going to talk about all things compliance. And I'm so excited that everybody has decided to join me this month. We are in a weird time between Canada Day and July 4th. So anybody who accepted this, thank you so much. I didn't realize when I was announcing this last month how awkward of a time this is, but I was pleasantly thrilled to see how many of you actually accepted. So thank you so much. Just let me know if you can that, tech is working okay, you can hear me okay, you can see me okay. That would be amazing. I'm learning as I go. The comments last time were slightly delayed for me. They probably will be again, but if you could, that would be wonderful. Just letting me know that you can hear me and you can see me and that all is well. So today I'm showing you how to share compelling stories, insights, and thinking without triggering compliance flags, right? This is something that we talked about on the last LinkedIn Live and was one of those hiccups. So I wanted to follow up with even more and kind of diving even deeper into this. So if you could let me know that everything is good, and also let me know where you're tuning in from. I love that part of things. I love seeing where everybody's from. I work with advisors from both the US and Canada, all over the place, really. So I love to see where everybody's tuning in from. That's always exciting for me. Let's just check out the comments, make sure everything is good. Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. All good with sight and sound. That's amazing. Okay, good. Thank you. Well, welcome. 3 minutes in, I think, you got to give people a few minutes to kind of get in the door. But as I mentioned, as we're between, Canada Day and July 4th, I'm just grateful people are here. And so I want to make sure that every second of this episode is absolutely valuable for you guys. So I want to jump right in. But feel free, as always, to kind of put your questions in the comments and I will break up, my spiel, what I'm talking about with whatever's on your mind, right? As long as it's related to really what we're talking about today, which is compliance, let's jump in. So this is episode 3 of our LinkedIn Live series. I'm Natalie Hales, and if you're just joining us for the very first time, I help financial advisors stop chasing clients and start attracting them instead. And how I've been doing that for the last few years is by helping them discover their niche and craft their brand and develop their marketing plans. And so that's been really exciting the last few years, especially around, helping advisors discover their niche. As you know, with what's been going on with AI and whatnot lately, having a niche is more important than ever. So talking about these things ahead of time is something that I love to do for advisors. And so that's why I started this series, to try and help advisors kind of get ahead of where things are going. And so that's why we're talking about this today. But let's maybe kind of go over what we had talked about in the last few episodes, because this was a 3-part series, and then we're going to jump into something different next time. But I'll kind of recap a little bit. Oh, we got some comments coming in here. Hey, Vincent. Hi, Natalie. Charlotte, North Carolina, North Bay, Ontario. Wonderful. Toronto, not too far at all. Hello. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. So in episode 1, we talked about this massive shift happening in 2025, right? We talked about the fact that trust isn't really being built on the public web anymore. And so, what does that even mean, right? Well, basically, people are sick of AI-generated content and, frankly, algorithms telling them who to pay attention to. And so they're seeking more authentic and, frankly, curated connection. And so what we did is we explored how the best opportunities are actually moving into more private spaces. And so we talked about like, what does that mean for advisors? And we talked about newsletters and communities and real conversations that can be had online, offline, that sort of thing. And then in episode 2, we took that and we went a little bit deeper and we looked at why documenting your expertise beats creating like perfect content, right? All of this AI stuff out there. And frankly, like you kind of spending hours and hours trying to put together something that's, you think is going to be perfect, when really it's about showing your actual work and your thinking process, and how that is becoming the new authority signal, right? Because AI, frankly, can fake everything else. And so this is what's going to become even more important as we move forward. So we talked about those types of documentation that advisors should be thinking about and how to capture this really easily. And so that was great. But as we were moving through it, we realized that there's still really one major barrier holding most advisors back from taking action on either insights or putting together the compelling stories that they have. And that's what we're tackling head on today. So that's the fear of saying the wrong thing. I think it was episode 2, and it was just a comment, and somebody said, just trying to figure out how to do this or say this without stepping on a landmine. I think we all were like, yeah, that's true, like resonating with that for sure. But that fear is keeping so many great advisors silent. And so that's why I thought it's so important for us to get even deeper into this and talk about how we can do this in a compliant way. And so everybody is sitting on such valuable insights, right? And real expertise, but they're hesitant to share it. And so today I'm going to show you exactly how to share your processes, your compelling stories, and your insights without triggering those compliance flags. Does that sound good? That sound good? Good. Just making sure I'm not missing anything here. So what we're going to cover is what kind of stories are actually safe to share, frankly. And there's this 3 kind of layer filter for keeping content compliant that I'm going to share with you. And anything else that that's on your mind, we can chat about as well. But I want to get into some real examples from advisors who are doing this successfully. So before we dive in, I'd love to know, drop a yes in the comments if you've ever been held back from sharing something because you weren't sure if compliance would approve it. Like you were maybe even nervous to even put it through compliance. So maybe you just didn't do anything with it at all. So if that's true for you, that's probably why you're in today's live or in today's episode, just to make sure that doesn't happen again. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So the fear is real, right? But a lot of the time, the fear of compliance actually creates bigger problems a lot of times than compliance itself. And you're probably thinking to yourself, who the heck are you to chat about compliance? Well, before I was, having my own business, I worked for Canada Life, which is one of the big 3 here in Canada, insurance companies, and was in the marketing department and did branding for Canada Life's biggest clients and group. And what I had to put things through compliance every single day. And so I was actually had trained by their compliance officers as well to prevent kind of the back and forth and things that we had. So I do have, after, especially after being, 14 years in this industry and working with advisors, compliance officers as well, just having that, been trained by them, been working with them for the last 10, 15 years. So I hope everything I say here today is on the up and up. I'm sure it is. But I just want to give you that background about, who I am and why I feel like I'm confident enough to speak on this, and frankly, why I don't have too many problems with compliance myself. But over and over again, I hear from advisors like, I want to share more, or I'm worried I'm going to say something and then maybe I can't prove it, or maybe I can't back it up, or maybe I don't have the tech to say that. And so, or, my firm has really strict rules. What if I give accidental advice? Those sorts of things. I hear that a lot. And I get it. I get it. The consequences of getting it wrong, they feel huge, right? It feels scary. So, what happens when advisors are nervous about compliance? They usually default to one of two extremes, right? They either say nothing at all, which just means that their expertise stays hidden and they miss amazing opportunities to help people, which is exactly what we don't want, or they go super vague, which is unfortunate because sharing generic content that they feel like they can't get flagged but it doesn't actually say anything or much of anything. So that neither of those are great, right? Either saying nothing at all or being super vague. You might as well have said nothing at all. And so you're going ahead and putting so much time and effort into these things, and we want it to be as impactful as possible. Because neither of those helps you build trust or attract clients. And so especially if you're a prospect, right, looking for financial guidance, I mean, which advisor would you trust more, right? The one sharing real insights from their work, even if they're not perfectly polished, right? We talked about this last time, or the advisor posting generic market updates or motivational quotes, those sorts of things, just trying to stay top of mind or in the feed. I mean, if you had to pick between an advisor, kind of between those two, I know which one I would pick, right? I mean, let's hear from you guys. Drop a 1 for real insights or 2 for like motivational quotes in the comments. That would help me. And which do you feel like is going to build more trust, especially for you? Yeah. Someone says that's so true on the super vague. Thank you. Yes. Oh, somebody else. Thank you so much. Great hosting, fantastic presentation work. Thank you. I am going to be kind of dipping down every once in a while, guys, just to make sure I'm not missing anything in the comments, but I apologize if I do. And thank you so much for being kind. Well, the most successful advisors that I work with in particular, they're not trying to dodge compliance, frankly, because they've learned how to work with it, and I've helped them do that. But first off, they understand what's actually allowed versus what they assume isn't allowed. And that's what I want to kind of talk about today, is just share some of what I've shared with my clients directly about some of those assumptions. And in fact, I think some of this might surprise you, especially that some of the most powerful stories you can tell, a lot of those stories that are honestly their brand stories, their origin stories, things like that, they are actually the safest ones to share. And so I'm going to show you exactly how this works in what I call the 3 layers of safe storytelling. Jeff says, 1 obviously, but 2 still has a purpose. Say more. Say more, Jeff. Is that so? 2 being the motivational quotes and things like that. They still have a purpose because you're staying top of mind. Frankly, staying top of mind. This is one of those things that, like, if there was a villain, well, my villain is like hustle culture in my brand, because I really feel like there's a total opposite way advisors should be doing things. But if I had a second villain, it might be that phrase, top of mind. That drives me nuts, because it's just noise. It's just noise, and it's not saying anything. And frankly, I'd rather not say anything than be annoying. And I sometimes when you're just sharing noise or staying top of mind to get your name in the feed, I feel like that's what it is. So sometimes you're actually detracting, but I want to hear more, Jeff. Um, two brings eyeballs. Yes, eyeballs. It does. But like I said, it can bring eyeballs, but maybe not for the best reasons. Yeah. You make some good points, though. I want to let's keep going back and forth. I'm happy to keep chatting about that. But for me, oh yeah, I don't know. I think I'm on the complete opposite end, Jeff. I feel like that it brings eyeballs, but for the wrong reasons. But I'm open to chatting about it, of course. So, what are the three layers of safe storytelling? And I want you to think about this as like your compliance friendly storytelling system. Because it works because it focuses on what happened, not what it means for someone else. And that is the important differentiator. But I think I want to break this down layer by layer before just jumping to the end so that everybody, is on the same page together. Think of layer one as context over claims. That's where we want to start with the context. This is your foundation, right? Instead of making broad statements about what people should do or, or your blatant opinion, I think it's better and it's better from a compliance standpoint if you're simply sharing what happened. And so, for example, an advisor I work with used to write posts like, everybody needs disability insurance, right? That was either at the beginning or the end. And it's a blanket claim that can get flagged. And so that was one of those things that, I would always kind of scratch out. I think we can do this better. But now he shares the real context, which sounds more like something like, last week I helped a client review their insurance coverage and they mentioned how their colleague had recently become disabled, which sparked a conversation about income protection. Right? And you go on. But you can see the difference. He's not telling anyone what to do. He's just sharing the reality that prompted the discussion. That's the difference. And that's your layer one, context. I don't want to harp too far on it, but drop a got it in the comments if you see how sharing context is different from making claims. Let me just check the comments here. Oh, I had a couple of posts blow up and I took some hate. However, they created reach and opportunities that I might not have ever reached. Oh, one of those kind of old idioms where it's like no press is bad press. I think that's how it goes. I guess. Yeah. I mean, like if you've got thick skin, Jeff, and you can take it and you're just like happy that more opportunities spilled out from that, great. But I think if we can avoid that, that might be even better. And, the internet lives forever. So we want to be careful. Vincent says motivational quotes are only valuable when they are made relevant to the audience. So true. They really do. Especially, I do love a quote when I'm sharing, like when I'm actually sharing a story or a post or something like that, and the quote itself is very relevant. And I have other people I know that do the same, where either the quote's at the end or they've used a quote as the picture that they're sharing or something like that. So I think that makes sense for sure. Yeah, you take the good with the bad. True. Yeah. So going back to the how sharing context is different from making claims. So claims are like you should always max out your 401k, or real estate is the best investment right now. Everyone over 50 needs long-term care insurance. You're not wrong. I totally agree with you. It's just that they're problematic because they make sweeping generalizations that don't account for individual circumstances. So because of that, they could be interpreted as specific advice. And so especially when you're using words like always, never, everyone, and best. If you have those words and you're writing content, let's say you're writing content using AI, you might want to ask your AI, never use always, never, everyone, and best. Just scratch those from your vocabulary right away. I think if you only take that away from this, you're doing okay. So I think that's good. Let's just make sure that everybody's got it. Yeah. Life isn't as fun. Just living on the edge. I love that. Okay. For everybody else who's like safety conscious, let's get back into layer 2. Okay. Process over prediction. That's my layer 2. Especially when we're talking about sharing your processes, we want to be mindful about predictions. This is really where you can let your expertise shine as well. By showing how you think, right? Not what others should do. And it sounds more like, here's how I help the client weigh 2 different paths, and you go on. Or I talked about an example like this in our last live, that one advisor I knew actually documented his due diligence process when evaluating target date funds, and he made a video about it. And he talked about all the red flags that he looked for. And so he's not giving specific advice. He's just showing his thinking process. That's another really great one. And honestly, like the questions that you ask yourself when reviewing a type of fund, or one item that sparked your interest when discussing retirement planning, for example, or another process related one could be something like how your framework for evaluating investments has evolved over the years, something like that. So those are all super safe, but also great stories to share. When you're looking at documentation, we are talking specifically about insight sharing, process sharing, client story sharing. And so I want to give even more examples that are like compliant friendly. Vincent says, back to Jeff, I need a lot of courage to do that. Yeah. Exactly. That is why we are talking here today, Vincent. 100%. Yeah. A lot of people are on the same page with One Real Insights for sure. And I think a lot of people get the difference between between sharing compliance, between sharing the back history of that. Sorry, just trying to read. I shouldn't read comments at the same time I'm trying to talk. Sorry. So that's the process. That's layer 2. And so the last layer that you can kind of think about this in safe storytelling is reflection, right? Reflection over results, to be honest. And I think that, of course, you want to share results, but you have to do it in a very particular way. And so this is why this is my favorite layer, because it's where you get to share your perspective without crossing any lines. So instead of saying something like, this strategy will work for you, or try this strategy will work for you, you reflect. You say like something like, this conversation reminded me why cash flow planning isn't just about spreadsheets. And you go on. So it's more of a reflection versus this is why I think this would be great for you. When in actual fact, it does tell them why you think it's going to be great for them, but it's the way it's framed is in a reflection. It's explaining to them, frankly, how they should think without actually saying that. So, for example, instead of saying something like, you need to start estate planning early, it's like you say you're reflecting on it. You're saying something like, today's estate planning reminded me, or today's estate planning discussion reminded me how much easier this process is when families start the conversation early. Right? More of a reflection. This is what it reminded me of. Or maybe it's shown you something. So like instead of saying like, always diversify your portfolio, you would reflect and say, like, working through this kind of market volatility lately with clients has shown me why I'm so passionate about portfolio diversification strategies. And you can say something like this at the start, or you can say something like this at the end to kind of cap things off, up to you. But either way, it'll help you kind of reflect back on what you shared and hammer home the point or open up the conversation. Jess says, why doesn't compliance can't I'm looking at you. I said that very quietly. Like the term peace of mind. Yeah, you know what? That was a really overused term back in the day. Giving somebody peace of mind because it's making a promise. So when we were trained by compliance, it was like, and I'm going to go through some of these like quick rules that I was given. But one of those is like, don't make promises. And unfortunately, saying this is going to give you peace of mind is sounds like it's making a promise. And so it leaned too heavily in that. So I hope that helps answer the question. But yeah, compliance is going to stay the heck away from making promises. Yeah, they told me it can't be used. It can't really, to be honest. And honestly, it's overused anyway. I think it's more impactful sometimes, rather than say peace of mind, because it's a saying, to even go into what that feels like for another client. When you're sharing a story, you could say like something along the lines of like, this client came to me because they were literally having insomnia over this issue. They couldn't sleep. They were just constantly, and like go into how they were feeling or what was happening externally around them. And then you could go into the context of, so you're sharing the context of what happened. Now you're sharing the context of what reality is like now, right? Now they're sleeping peacefully, and that is not making a promise, but you're saying the exact same thing. They have peace of mind. But you are more specific with the story, with the context, and describing what that actually looks like. So people actually take the feeling away of peace of mind versus just the saying. Because a lot of times those sayings anyway, people hear them so much they start to mean nothing. So you're better off honestly describing the context of what peace of mind looked like before and afterwards than actually saying peace of mind. I hope that's helpful. Yeah. Financial security, financial freedom. I think financial security, that's not making a promise. It's more like what you do. And so I think that's why that might be skirted through. Yeah. Yeah, I think but let me go into a few more examples so people are understanding exactly what we're talking about. So for example, instead of saying something like, don't make emotional investment decisions, which I do see all the time in content, like, of course, right? It's still true. But when you're reflecting, you can say something like, some of our most valuable client conversations happen when we explore the emotional side of financial decisions. And it says the exact same thing, but it's more of a reflection either on the client story or a reflection on the insight or a reflection on the process itself versus telling them. And that's the difference. We are shifting really when we're doing this from prescriptive advice to personal reflection while still conveying really valuable insights. And that's the difference. And like I said, this can live. It usually lives at the end of your content when you're kind of reflecting back, but you can open up conversations this way too. Vincent says, this is from Canada Life's website. Insurance protection can help give you the confidence to embrace every opportunity to live each day to its fullest. Yeah. I think that's okay. Why this isn't a promise is that word can. So insurance protection can help you versus insurance protection gives you the confidence to embrace every opportunity to live each day to the fullest. That's probably what that marketer really wanted to write. Right? But the reason why something like that is approved and fine is because it says it can help you. Very different. Very different. So that's why it's not a promise. And I hope everybody can kind of see the difference in there between and thank you for that example. Live examples, love it. I hope that's helpful. So yeah, that's yeah. Yeah, you guys got it. There we go. So, I mean, let's hear from you guys. Which layer resonates most with you, right? We've got 1, 2, and 3. We've got context over claims, right? When we're sharing stories, we need that context in those client stories, especially. Process over prediction. We don't want to predict something about what could happen because that leans into those like individual scenarios or trying to give individual specific advice. We want to kind of reflect back, we want to kind of talk about the process itself. And then layer 3 or 3, if you guys are putting these in the comments, is reflection over results. And so let me know like which one kind of made the most sense with you guys. And they kind of all layer on top of each other when we're building, content, either for social media or for articles or frankly for presentations even, where we want to be careful about these things. We have to make sure we're not making claims, but instead we're giving the context. We're not making any kind of predictions for a person or telling them what to do. We're helping them understand our processes. And we're not giving results. So we never want to give really, I would frankly stay away from hard numbers, but I'll give you kind of all of my kind of rules of thumb that I try and remember in a minute. But reflection is what we're actually trying to share. So 1, 2, or 3. 1 is hypothetical. Oh, the other is a promise. Yes. True. True. So I am happy to jump into can I say this lightning round. I'm happy to answer any questions about what you can say, what you can't say, and why, if that's helpful. Something like that I've had recently is, can I share a story about a client selling their business? And, my answer was, of course, right? You're going to want to share that context. Like, did you have a process that you use when you do this that maybe we could share? Like, you can come at it from a bunch of different angles. Was there some sort of insight that came out of that people wouldn't expect? Those are usually my initial questions. And then trying to figure out how to say this in a compliant way. Especially like if the result was great. Am I allowed to say that? Right? It was fantastic. I want to share, of course. Well, here's how you do it safely, right? Some of my rules of thumb that I always try and keep in mind for myself or for client my advisor content is I'm happy to keep it anonymous. Either if I am sharing a real person's name, I tag them and I get permission. That is a lot of effort to make sure they know on such and such a date, I'm going to be posting this, or I want to talk to you in this article. This is how it could be used. You need written permission, those sorts of things to keep it all on the up and up. It's a lot of work. I do it occasionally because I'm just like this one, especially in my case studies. Oh my gosh, too good not to share, not to get hyper specific. And I want everybody to know who you are. So I do that. But as a usually for social media or like quick posts or something like that, or even when I'm sharing examples here with you, or when I'm sharing examples in my blog or something like that, I usually keep it anonymous. And it's one of those things where I just say, usually for the most part, use a first name or just say my client or she or he, and just keep it anonymous. It's the easiest way to go about it while still making a massive impact. 2, focus on the process you used. Don't gatekeep that. It's so interesting for people to understand, okay, I know what she talks about, or I know what she does, but I'm so curious as to how she does it. And why that works, right? Why that works, because I have no idea as an outsider why that potentially might work. So 2 is focus on the process you used, and that also usually helps to make it compliant and safe. 3, share what you learned. I think that is really helpful for getting people to know more about you, right? People want to hear your real opinions. People want you to be authentic. So share what you learned. And sometimes that'll be, sometimes that's coming out of failures, and even that's really impactful. And 4, I would say avoid specific numbers or guarantees, right, in anything that you're doing, obviously. But even numbers, I usually will say something like if I'm sharing a result of how much, more AUM I managed to get an advisor or something like that, I won't say specifically what it was, but I will say a $10+ million client, right? Or and sometimes, it's you can say like a few, or I would say like one I just did recently in my case study was like he got a $20 million client and a few clients between 2 and 8 million as a result of working with me within, following our brand update following 90 days. So not getting too specific with the numbers also helps compliance feel more comfortable. Hopefully that helps. Oh, would love some more insight on number 3. Okay, I'll go back to that. Hard numbers in the end, not making promises on X% return achievable results. 100%. Yep. Would love to hear more on that. Okay. Frankly, unless it's in a case study, because case studies, you absolutely need disclaimers and both like net and gross numbers to, and even testimonials. You need to be providing a link to all your testimonials to be fair and balanced and things like that. So with case studies and testimonials are a little bit different, but for example, you could, instead of saying something like, I helped client X sell their business for Y million, right? You might say something like, a recent business sale reminded me why starting succession conversations early matters. Here's what I learned from helping guide that process, and you get into it. It is the exact same as a case study, but you are shying away from saying exactly who that person was and exactly how much they sold their business for. Is that helpful for, as an example, Jeff, for for number 3? It's basically all three together, right? You're giving the context of the story. You're talking a little bit about your process, and you're sharing it as a reflection, and that's the perfect framing, to be honest. So the key is you can share outcomes, but you frame them as learning moments, not promises. Does that make sense? Let me just pause and make sure I'm not missing anything. I think I got everybody. Now, I do know, like, it's hard coming up with these questions, or, specifically off the top of your head, from, this one time, this happened in compliance, or, not everybody wants to share those stories. So I totally get it. Hopefully I have enough examples here that will help give everybody a really, give everybody a guideline that's super clear without putting anybody too much on the spot. But that is the key, right? You can share outcomes, but you frame them as learning moments. And that goes a long way. So these are standards, to be honest, that can be documented as part of your marketing policies for compliance. And I would even include some examples for them. And because you're going to want to update that annually anyway, having recent examples is nice. And it's going to help your processes go even smoother. But if you are having to document your marketing policies for compliance, include some of these kind of as guidelines that you follow and what those examples look like. And that, having those things in advance for compliance, makes approving your content a whole lot easier, ton easier. Because honestly, from there, you have an understanding from them of what required workflow is going to look like, or approval timelines, and even like remediation requirements, right? Those are, if you have those discussions about, like, here's what I'm going to do, here's my marketing guidelines, here's what some of my example content might potentially look like, here is the process for, or I'd like to chat about the process for workflow, approval timelines, remediation, all those things. And like, let's agree upon it, up front. Again, that makes things really smooth for everybody involved. And your content just flies through. And when it comes to proof, if you have a compliance department, you probably are already using tools to capture and save your content for record keeping. That also is going to save you. So if you're using a tool right now, great. If you're not, consider using one. Let me make sure. I think I've hit everything, but I mean, overall, the pattern you're probably noticing is that it's not about avoiding topics, guys and girls. and everybody else. It's not about avoiding topics. It's about how you frame them. Okay, so we want to share what happened. Yes. We want to share what you learned. Yes. Share your process. Heck yes. But we don't want to make blanket claims. We don't want to make promises. You saw a little bit in that example about how you can kind of get around making promises. And we don't want to give individual advice. Right? So speaking of real examples, though, I have got something really special for those of you in the OA community. So if you don't know, this has been, as I've been going along and talking about these things, I have been implementing them myself. So that first episode where we talked about a private community and in newsletters and things like that, I went to Substack and I got started a Substack. And I'm doing it, 100% implementing it as we go together. Episode 2 came out. We started talking about documenting your expertise and why, instead of just sharing, or I guess instead of telling people what they should do, it's more important to open up that back curtain. And that's what I'm doing now with things like this. And I'm doing it as like live in person as we go. And so you're going to see examples of even more of that because I've built something really special, and I'm going to share it with you guys. So every anyone who's a part of the community gets the Tuesday drops, which are so the Monday that after these lives come out, I always share the recap with everybody. Of course, you get the link, you get the learning lessons from this. But anybody a part of the community gets the Tuesday drops, and the Tuesdays drops have all the actual, like, even more examples, actual scripts, all the tools and templates that I've shared, anything that I think might help them, the podcast. There's a bunch of things included in the OA community that it's not just this, it's tools that you can follow up on and use. So before we wrap up today and wrap up in particular this 3-part series, I'm really excited to share something that I feel like has that I've been working on, that I feel like we've discussed in action. And so you're going to get 2 really powerful resources this week that I'm excited about both. You're going to get a lot this week, but I'm excited about these 2 in particular. We're dropping the Safe Storytelling Swipe File, which is real examples of compliant, high trust content from advisors that's going to be fully annotated so you can see exactly how they work, why this part's compliant, why this part isn't, the differences and things like that. So if we didn't get enough time to do it here, we can do it then. Yeah, that's great. No problem. Happy 4th of July. So, but I'm even more excited about the second tool, right? I've created this custom AI writing coach called Advisor Content Companion. And I want advisors to start, especially everybody in the community, we're thinking about it like this personal content strategist that helps turn your daily work, like your actual experiences, into compelling, compliance-friendly content. It guides you through these structured prompts based on where your ideal clients are at in their journey, for sure. But the best part is that it understands, like, because it's built for advisors, the specific compliance considerations. So as you're kind of detailing your experiences or your processes or whatever it's prompting to get out of you, it's considering those in the background and helping you document your expertise in a way that builds trust without crossing any lines. And so if you're not a part of the OA community, now is the perfect time to join. Head over to nataliehales.substack.com and join the paid community to get access to both of these resources, plus, of course, our full archive of all the tools and templates. So I think that's everything. I'm happy to kind of I'm about to jump over to my OA community who gets also after these workshops, they get like a private Ask Me Anything. And so we're going to take this offline now, or I guess off live, and go and have a conversation with my friends and see how this can be implemented for them and see how they enjoy the tool. But for everybody else, please remember your expertise absolutely deserves to be shared. It needs to be shared. I was one of those people that had no idea. If anybody knows my backstory and where I grew up and how, you'll understand why this is so important to me. So let's make sure it reaches people who need it most in a way that's both powerful and, of course, compliant. Unless anybody's got anything else, I am going to wrap it up 10 minutes early and let everybody, enjoy the holidays, right? Happy Canada Day. Happy 4th of July. We're smushed right in the middle right now, but hopefully everybody has a wonderful vacation. Enjoy. And we will see you next month for a surprise guest, a very important surprise guest. So I keep your ears peeled. I will reveal that in the Tuesday drop. Thanks, guys. Bye.